Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the IU Academy YouTube channel. We are here again with Cindy Tadje, and she has gone through now all of her experiences and sessions with the MAPS program, and she is back to give us an update now, being just about 2 months out of the final session. So Cindy, welcome back again.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you
Good to
for
see you.
having me back after such a long journey.
Yeah, we are excited to hear how the last one was, because that was supposed to be the biggest dose, right?
Right. And actually, I learned that they gave me the same dose they gave me the second time. So I was expecting a larger dose and it was the same. And I was kind of disappointed. I was like, no, I'm really ready. Let's go even deeper. I think it's the Western mindset of go big or go home.
More is better, right?
Yeah. And just put out that disclaimer, right? We're not advocating we're not advocating for everyone to go out and do MDMA or any other psychedelic journey with that. Make sure it's in a professional setting and it's legal where you're at. This was
Definitely.
done by a controlled study that was approved through the FDA, so everything was legal on my end, and so I just wanted to get that out and get that clear.
Yeah, thank you. You were very lucky to be one of just a handful of participants, I think, in that study, to be able to get access to something that hopefully more people will be able to receive as treatment for various types of, psychological and emotional issues. But as it is right now, it is very hard to get access to this legally in the US. And so you were very lucky, I think, to be able to get into that path.
Oh, I feel extremely lucky, and it's almost like that survivor's guilt where you feel like there's so many other people that need this medicine and there's so many people, and that was something I really struggled with throughout the whole entire study. It was, like how did I get lucky to get in here? But I'm really grateful. I'm very, very grateful because it like I was telling you before, we can do all of these other modalities that can help us find a more healthy and comfortable state of being. It's just like a long car ride sometimes. And I feel like psychedelic medicine is like getting in an airplane and getting you to your destination, right? Where the car ride, you're gonna be able to like take in a little bit more experiences and you're gonna be able to see more things. It's just gonna take longer. Where the airplane ride, you're gonna bypass. So there is some caution that I just want to say that when we do use plant medicine, and I guess MDMA really wouldn't be considered a plant medicine because it's synthesized in a lab. So when we use, LSD or MDMA, these other substances that mimic a lot of the psychedelic properties, we are taking the airplane or the rocket ship. So we are bypassing a lot of things that we might miss that might come back online when we're done with the experience.
That's such a good analogy, because these types of, usually what we would consider maybe peak experiences or once in a lifetime type of, infrequent, very strong, very powerful, very impactful experiences. These types of things have the ability to move us forward very, very quickly.
Yes.
Regular life would not allow us to make that many advances or that many gains in such a short period of time. So it is exactly like taking an airplane to get somewhere. But hey, as soon as you get off that airplane, you still need to get to your final destination. And that's where you got to get back in the car, right?
Yeah,
And
100%.
that's your integration.
And that's what I'm so grateful for Ayurveda and the formulas that you had me on up into my third experience really were able to settle me back down. And I re-listened to our conversation, and I, at the very end, I said I want to feel peace. Like I'm ready to feel peace. And it's interesting because I think there's certain felt senses that we may not experience or we think we're experiencing just based off of environmental cues and what our environment is telling us we're feeling. But you've got to be able to feel things yourself, and you've got to be able to correlate and find coherence within yourself. And so this third time, um, And my last time, I actually had to change one of my therapists because my former male therapist had COVID, so he couldn't come and sit with me. And so I had another male therapist come in. So there's a male and a female at every single one, which is beautiful. So that there's just a lot of energy to be able to be for them to hold. So he came in, and he was a psychiatrist for the MAPS program, and it was awesome because he was a little bit more direct, and he really gave me the nudge where he just came in and he saw my protective parts, and he's like, okay, let's be direct, and we're going to tell your protective parts to just go sit on the sidelines, and we're going to jump in, and I'm going to be the man that's going to come, and we're going to go in, and we're going to go rescue that little girl. And so this time it was nice because I think sometimes, well, for me, I have a tendency to just kind of float around the surface. And I think about this like with Ayurveda, like, oh, I know that this would be so good for me because, I'm seeing the results in, this person or that person or online or somebody speaking about it. And it sounds like it's amazing, but it's taking that nudge. It's like taking that first step. And sometimes you need somebody that's just going to say, let's do it. And just is a little bit more, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Maybe a little more assertive, or
there you go. That's beautiful. A little bit more assertive, where it's like, let's just go, let's do this. And it's something that I've appreciated working with you, in that you ask direct questions. Do you want to feel better? Well, of course I do. Okay, well then you're going to have to do this. This is where discipline comes in. And I think for me, growing up in a high demand religion, that was hard because it felt like this authoritative energy was coming out towards me, like I'm doing it wrong or something. And so then there's that tendency to freeze and to like kind of go into these protector parts. So I noticed like all of this was coming up for me at this last session that I had, where like authority had not like dominion, but like got to control my body. And so that was a huge part of my experience for my last one. Is I had to get underneath all that, and I had to understand that I was the authority.
That's huge.
Like, yeah. And I needed to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And that came through with each of these MDMA sessions, but this one was very much, if you want to feel better, this is your last time with these people. Like, just go in and face your biggest fear. Just do it. Like, you've got so many anchors, let's go. And so it was nice. It was nice that he was a little bit more direct with me this time, and we just jumped right in. It felt like we went down this big black tunnel and got the jaws of life and just opened up this like force field that this little girl had been putting up her whole entire life, and just got her, plucked her out, and took her out of there.
Wow.
And
was it scary?
so scary. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really scary. And the things that I unfortunately were able to see and remember were really horrific. They were really horrific. And one of my protector parts that I really, that's a really strong protector part, is my intellect. And so to get my intellect to just take a nap, because I wanted to figure out everything. Even while I was on MDMA, I wanted to understand, like, how does this what's happening? And they're just like, shh, let's just experience it, right? Just experience it. And so to get my intellect to be quiet took some time, but also this part of myself that always has needed proof.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that goes with a lot of alternative health as well. It's like we always want proof. We always want proof for everything right now. It's like there needs to be so much proof, and we're all so sensitive to all the information, and so we're having to be politically correct in everything we say and everything we do. And it's just, at the end of the day, what do you feel? right? Like, can you just trust your own authority? Can you trust your own sovereignty? Can you trust like your own experience?
Yeah.
And so
Very
for,
hard for most people.
yeah, sorry about the airplane that's going over my house right now. It's very loud.
It's
Speaking
reminding
of
you of your
airplanes,
airplane journey. Yeah.
um, and so this experience really did allow for my felt sense, that bottom up approach, the somatic experience to really come through. And my body was able to just release stuff that it needed to release for years and years and years and years. And
Amazing.
um, and by allowing my body to just finally surrender to the experience, and I didn't think I'd have tears, but they're coming. But I was really hard. It was really, really hard. And since that last session, um, I've just needed to take a break. I just needed to like take a break from everything. I didn't want to figure after this last session. I didn't want to figure it out anymore because I felt it, and I didn't need the proof. I didn't need to intellectualize it. Like I just needed to sit with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what was so beautiful about this last MDMA experience is that I finally sat in it. And as hard as that was, the science shows that you just have to sit in something for about 2.5 minutes and fully fill it in order it to pass.
Wow. It seems like such a short amount of time, but to be in it probably feels like an eternity.
It does. Oh, it does, and I can see the wisdom in a lot of the breath work techniques that were taught in yoga and other modalities about
Mm.
this really slow inhale and the really slow exhale, and even the alternating nostril breathing to kind of bring that parasympathetic and sympathetic responses into like more of a range of resiliency space. And I did remember to do a lot of the breathing techniques that I've learned throughout the years, so I was really grateful for that, because I think that helped calm my nervous system down, in a way that I could process and I could sit with some of those really, really, really uncomfortable emotions.
Yeah. Wow. And since finishing that last session, has much of that sentiment, has that persisted, or does it feel like you've gotten closure?
It does feel like I've gotten closure. I Afterwards I had found a lawyer that said he wanted to help me gain some justice for what happened to me when I was younger. Unfortunately, the powers at large are very powerful and would probably destroy my name and me to keep their name spotless. So that didn't happen, and I had to sit with that after. Um,
Mhm.
and then I did do some I did do some microdosing to kind of help me integrate that experience. And the more I did that and sat with it, and then the formulations that you had me on to really help me calm down my nervous system, I was really able to finally feel peace.
Beautiful.
And I was really surprised when I felt peace, that it felt like freedom.
Awesome.
And I didn't know. I didn't know. I thought that it would feel different, but it really was this sense of freedom. I think we all want to be free of this authoritative, like boss type energy that we kind of feel like we're running from or running to, right? And to be free of all of that, and the peace I felt, it's like you never want to go back. So it's like a
Yeah,
double-edged sword in a way.
definitely. It's a very tricky line to try to keep straight, I think, because on the one hand, we need to have a certain amount of self-imposed discipline and even community discipline and certain standards and ethics and rules by which we're going to live. But that can easily be taken advantage of by the people who are in power. And when it's used for doing things that should never happen to anybody, That has to, in some way, has to have its own justice somewhere. And so I'm so sorry that you may not get a chance to see that in your lifetime, but hopefully somewhere in you feel like that will be taken care of in its own due course and time.
Yeah, yes. I feel very much at peace with that now, that sentiment, because before, I think I had more of that Raja, like, oh, let's go, and that was really driving me for a long time, but it was also like making me sick. Like too much,
Exactly.
like Raja is awesome to get things done, but out of control, right? It was controlling my senses. It was controlling so much of my experience because I was so angry. Like I had all this anger that I didn't get to express as a child, but now that it's coming out, I still don't get to express it. So it was like, what's the point of this?
Exactly. And so when it has no way to discharge, it ends up hanging out inside and just short-circuiting things or running things at excessive speed or frequency and mismatching a lot of things. And so you end up with all these sorts of physiological and pathological issues, and management of internal energy regulation and things like that is just so important for long-term health and quality of life. And so a lot of the things that are popular now, meditation and the breathing exercises, the pranayama, things that have come from the East, and even psychedelics, I mean, all of this is meant for trying to gain some amount of resolution towards that internal state of discontinuity. And if you're able to achieve that, you're very, very lucky.
Yeah.
But
This
we've
and
seen, yeah,
as
it's
you
a constant path. I mean, it's going to be over and over again, hopefully, until finally one day it's just like, okay, like you said, I don't need to think about this anymore. This is it. I'm done. I'm at the ending
I
point now.
I feel that.
That's great.
I feel that. And that is peace to me.
There you go.
And I thought maybe peace would be, oh, I'm going to take down this religion that I would not take it down, but I'm going to let them know, and no,
Justice.
justice. Yes, and I think the little girl inside of me knows that I've put forth a good fight.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, I'm going to reflect back to my first journey experience where it was like I knew I was 95% joy. And so I would way rather harness that energy of joy and peace and these sattvic qualities that are in all of us. Like nobody's going to give you permission to be this. It's already inside. And it's just understanding what's been projected onto each of us to be molded into a certain way of being so that we can, I don't know, it's exactly what you're saying earlier about like there does need to be some type of ethics and values and in groups, but then at what point does it become so dogmatic and so controlling that we actually start to take people's peace and freedom away?
Exactly.
And so once I was able to understand it for myself and my own experience, um, stepping back from all the noise for a while has been really nice. Now
Awesome.
that the MAPS program's over, I don't have all of these people kind of poking and prodding and like, and so it's been nice to just kind of step back and just be. And in that, um, yeah, it's just there's just been so many shifts and changes in the last couple of months that it's still shifting and it's still changing. And they said it would for a few months.
Yeah. Did they give you anything else? Any other information on what to expect? Like maybe over
Just
the
that
next
that
year?
was it. No,
Wow.
that's it. It was just kind of like, okay, well, thank you, and very well, we'll see you later.
It was nice working with you.
So I'm so grateful for you and for Ayurveda, and that I have this community that I can lean on to like keep my stages of development um, as close as I can to my own homeostasis, to my own swasta, right? So like what you were talking about, you've talked about this in your classes and in the community about these different stages, like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and sometimes we go back to stage 2 and sometimes we go back to stage 1. And I found myself doing that because then the overwhelm, I'm like, oh, just stage 1. Cook something really simple, Cindy. get to bed early on time. So now it's like I have this other voice in my head that's my voice. It's not my religion I grew up with. It's not the family of origin that I was born into. It's not, the school systems and college and blah. It's me that's saying you felt better when you went to bed early. You feel better when you eat regular times. You feel better when you eat easy to digestible foods. So I'm so grateful because, let's see, there's this saying that's been really helping me recently. You develop the habit and then the habit develops you.
That's beautiful.
And
I like
I
that
love
one.
that. And I developed the habit for me. And I had your assistance and I've had your nudges and I've had your times and you're like, Cindy, if you want to feel better, you got to do this. Okay. And sometimes you need that nudge, just like the nudge I got for MDMA. It was like, let's go. Like, what's going to happen if the worst thing happens, Cindy? And like, okay, I didn't want anyone to ask me that, but thank you for asking me that.
It's so much better to be prepared and ready to get through difficult situations because they're going to arise. And so obviously we hope that they don't. We try to avoid having to go through them unnecessarily. But when the time comes and difficulty faces us, we have to be ready for it. And I think you've done an amazing job. I mean, to have gone through what you had to suffer with as a child is just, it's terrible. And no child should ever have to even know that something like that exists. Never mind live through it.
No, and then live through it twice.
Right. And so to come out of that and to then suffer, continue suffering with other health issues and things like that over the course of your life, it's been nothing short of a miracle to watch you make these changes, really, and get to go through something as powerful as 3 MDMA experiences like this in short.
Yeah,
Succession.
I'm so grateful to be on the other side of it, and I'm also realizing there is no destination.
Good.
The
Yes,
destination is the journey.
it's right here. It's
It's
today.
right
It's every
there.
moment.
Yes, it's this moment, and I've struggled with this idea of impermanence, and this idea of attachment, and in Ayurveda we talk about how the manas is attached to the indriya so that we can experience the world, or uh, indriyas meaning like sense organs, um, and this idea of detaching from that or withdrawing from the senses, or in Buddhism it's like impermanence, right? And suffering will always happen, and so I've really struggled with this, like, what does that really mean for me? And something that my therapist said is, she said, it's like walking in a river. Like, you're never going to step into the same river twice. It's going to always flow. Life is always going to flow, and life will always present entropy, and life is always going to present some other season of change, just like the seasons will change, the weather changes, we grow, we adapt, all of these things, right? And how
Exactly.
awesome that we've got Ayurveda as a tool to help us with that. And it's not something that is too complicated. I mean, it kind of is in the beginning, but
It's funny because it can be so complicated, but it can be so simple at the same time. I think it depends on how we want to interpret things. And for people who naturally approach situations and try to make them, they want to blow them up into something complex, forget it. This is going to be very challenging. So it's a good lesson in that, in being able to see our own thought processes and what do we choose? Do we want to try to just take it easy on ourselves and give ourselves some compassion in the whole process and say, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't have to be as difficult as it feels like it's getting, right? A person who's prone to ending up in a state of hyperanxiety, let's say, when they're presented with some stressful situation. There are many ways that we can diffuse that, many tools that we can use to simplify things and to just bring it down to the baseline. And from that baseline, you can then start again and build up.
did we lose it?
For just a moment, I think we did. but I think we might be back. Can you hear
I
me
think
okay?
we're back. Yes.
All right.
So you're talking about diffusing,
Just the
oh, just having more compassion on ourselves.
Yeah, having compassion on ourselves when we get into these stressful situations, exactly what you did in the last month. You said, whoa, this has been so big. It's such a big event in your life. I need to take a break.
Yeah.
That was the
Yes,
best thing you could have
100%.
done.
And it's interesting because um, one of the people that has been part of this Ayurvedic community for me, obviously you, and then Mark, who's actually studying now in, we talked about acceptance, and he challenged me. He's like, write about acceptance, and I feel like by feeling peace and freedom, like I've understood acceptance, because compassion was the first step. I had to have compassion on myself, but what does that even mean? I had to feel this energy that's coming from within that's always there. And in order to do that, I had to go through the layers of like the physical body, the pranic body or whatever, the breath, the emotional, the mental, and I had to get down to this bliss body or whatever you want to call it, this like where consciousness is in our heart. Like I had to come back to the heart, and I had to feel what compassion feels like. And for me, it was that feeling of grace, that we are allowed to feel everything without judgment. And if we allow ourselves to feel everything for 45 seconds to 2.5 minutes, science is saying that's how long you need 5 times of alternating nostril breathing, right? It's like there's these tools that we have that we can help ourselves sit with the pain. But if we can sit with one another, that's even bigger. And you've sat with me, and the people at MAPS have sat with me, and therapists, and my husband, and all these people. And so as I've been able to feel compassion and feel like, and then really step back and zoom out and be like, oh, this wasn't my fault, because little girl Cindy thought it was her fault. So little girl Cindy had to like realize like this was not your fault. And you don't need to have compassion for the person who did this. Like it was
No?
wrong and they were evil. And so allowing myself grace to see the beauty in everything, even the horrific nature of what nature can present itself to us. That allowed acceptance to just come right on through. And once I felt that acceptance, I felt freedom,
That's
and I felt
beautiful.
peace. And so I think that was the biggest gift that I've gotten in the last, few months. I know Mark, he asked me to do this. This was like 2 years ago, and it finally is here. So I'm happy to return and report to Mark and tell him I think I've gained appreciation to understanding acceptance. And then exactly what we were talking about this whole time. It's accepting that life is going to always present something, good or bad. It's not. It's both.
It's always flowing. Things are always
Always
changing.
flowing. Yes, and this inner critic that so many people are battling with. Did it stop?
I,
Yeah,
it's
sorry.
back. Go
This inner
ahead.
critic that so many people are battling with, in this black and white thinking. And I think of political parties, and it's like it's either this way or this way, or and so it can be both. Like, what if we all just like had that mentality? Like, it can be both. And peace and freedom. I mean, I don't even know. I feel like I'm in fairyland right now, believing that we could have peace and freedom in this country. Heaven forbid that this country was on that idea, but um, yeah, I don't know. I'm just really grateful. I'm grateful for all of it now. Now it's been a couple months, and I got through the worst of the worst.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
grateful.
congratulations. It's remarkable how much you've been through and the changes that you've been able to experience and to, watch you blossom again and again throughout this process has been a beautiful thing. I'm curious, we've got a couple minutes left, so I'd love to hear how you feel on a physical level. Like, do you feel like your body has changed at all,
Oh yes,
health-wise?
yeah, very much so. And I think the one thing I wanted to point out is that the formulas you had me on, I know, have been helping my body so I don't get sick. Um, I've noticed like there like these times when I've been processing really deep emotions, and I have a better understanding and a better ability to tap in and like feel where it is in my body. and then be able to talk to you about that. So I feel
Awesome.
like I'm way more in tune with the physical happenings of my body.
Great.
Definitely have more energy, way more energy. I feel stronger, a lot stronger. Um, I feel more capable of doing things I didn't think I was going to be able to do anymore. Um, my head has not hurt in a really long time, which, oh, that's like the best thing ever. My ability to breathe, like my lung capacity has gotten a lot better. So I don't feel as fatigued. The brain fog has gotten so much better.
Awesome.
Um, I don't get the sore throats like I used to.
I
Um,
think your immunity has increased dramatically, especially
oh yeah,
this year, and your strength is definitely way up. I remember, I think when we started, it must have been back in like 2020, I think, beginning of 2020, and you were able to pick something up and put it in the car that you hadn't done in a long time.
yeah,
And that was a big achievement at, over 3 years ago now. But at this point, I think you had told me that you're weightlifting again, you're out
yeah,
running, and you're
yes,
really active.
yes. And I feel the desire in my body to do it again. Like I
Great.
feel, instead of like mentally being like I have to do this to feel better, it's like no, my body actually is really responding to this. So I'm
Beautiful.
noticing my body is responding to my environment instead of my mind. So I really feel like I'm way more in my body now.
Awesome. Yeah,
And I know, yeah,
that's a great sign of being healthy and being present and being stable.
yes. And I noticed, and the other thing I noticed, I went on a trip recently, and I did my formulas, but I wasn't perfect, and I didn't beat myself up about it. But
Good.
I noticed, like, I'm like, oh my goodness, these are helping me so much, the formulas. And then I came back and I've got on them again. I'm like, okay, there it is. So I'm starting to understand my authority for myself, and I'm like, oh, and I want to do it. It's not even that I want to do it. It's like my body just does it now. It's that developing the habit develops me. My
Right.
habit now is like pick you. Pick your body. Pick your body mind connection, and you are responsible for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, if we want to really be our best and achieve our best and experience the most we can out of this lifetime, um, the saying charity begins at home. I see that very much so as taking care of ourselves first and then those immediately around us.
Right. And yeah, I'll just end with, I was listening to Arun. He's a Ayurvedic yoga therapist. He taps it.
Mm-hmm.
He dabbles in it. He was talking about, when we're in survival mode, we don't really have a lot of time to think about the external that much. We're just like, we gotta get food. We gotta make sure we can sleep somewhere, right? And then the next stage after, once all of our needs are met, we go into this place of pleasure and finding our purpose, and finding our passions and whatnot. Um, and a lot of times, like, we get stuck in there, and I think that's when like greed develops, and I think that's when control develops instead of going to service to others. And but when we're sick and when we can't focus and we can't think about anything else, it's like it's frustrating. It's
Mm-hmm.
frustrating that there's not a lot of help. And I think that's another reason why I love Ayurveda, is because it's helped me from that survival, right? To go to this next stage of like, well, now I feel good and I can do the things I love to do. Now I'm back to my family.
Awesome.
But trying to like go from survival to just my family, I resent, there's a resentment that starts to build because it's like, I don't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so much emphasis in Western culture, especially in the US today, on pretending like we're caring for ourselves and taking care of ourselves, right? Buying all the right clothes, buying the right cars, doing all the superficial things, going out and getting massages or making it look like we're doing stuff. But how often do people actually stop and ask, is this really helping me? Is this really serving me? What is this actually doing for me? And I think that's where Ayurveda can actually offer huge benefit, because this is where the training happens. This is where you learn. How do I interpret the signs that my body is giving me to know if something is good or bad? Right. And it takes so long, it takes years to get used to seeing those, getting better at seeing it. Those, like you mentioned, you can now really experience it better and you can communicate it to me better. And that helps the whole process go forward better. And so
Yeah.
over time, practicing all this stuff continuously and implementing it, doing it day in and day out, it can be very laborious, but it stays with you for a lifetime and it changes the whole trajectory of your life.
The whole trajectory. I feel like even if it's 1 degree, that 1 degree is going to take you somewhere different, you know, right here, where instead of like trying to do the same thing and getting not the results, 1 degree, eventually 2.5 years later, we're almost at 3 years that I've been really disciplined in this lifestyle. I'm over here now. Like, I don't even recognize that person that was here 3 years ago with you.
Wow.
I mean, I do. I still like her spunk, and I still love her like excitement for everything. But there's more of this like relaxed and more embodied.
Yeah, I think you're so much calmer and you
Yeah,
are so much more in control of your emotional state
for
rather than
sure.
the other way around.
I know. I never thought that would happen. Just like I didn't know peace correlated to freedom. I didn't know I could feel so calm
Yeah,
and not feel bored.
yeah, no, it's peaceful. That it's
It,
not
it,
boredom, it's peace. That's
no,
peace.
and not depressed. It's not
Right.
depression. There's a difference. And so it feels good to feel calm and feel peaceful, but then still have energy. There you go. It's an energy that I'm feeling, that's my body's accepting, and it's radiating, and I love it so much. So thank you so much, Jess, for helping me on this journey, because I could not do it without you.
You're so welcome, Cindy. Thank you for having me with you this way. And it's been really it's been a miraculous journey. So I'm excited to see where you go from here. Maybe
Yeah.
another time we'll do another talk about some of the things, just on a very physical level, what you've had to experience and how you've been able to see Ayurveda working, because you've had very much a front row seat to a lot of that very intense.
Yes. And did we talk? I don't think we talked about this, but I got all my blood work back, and my TSH levels are going down. My thyroid levels are going down.
Awesome. All right.
And my
Well,
cortisol levels are optimal.
oh, your
All
hormones
my
are in place?
vitamin levels. Yes.
Excellent.
Like, I got an optimal report. So it works. Ayurveda works.
Wild.
So that's a good nugget to leave on.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much,
And if
Cindy.
anybody needs proof, we can show that.
We've got all the records. You've got all the records.
Yes, we do. Anyway, thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.